tough like the Rock Dwayne Johnson. Super cool like Frozen on a bison. I'm a knockout, call me Ollie or Tyson. And Tribe's got the drip like a Rolly high fashion. I know we can't gather, but don't get madder. We still got a summer, it's just different than the others. Kool-Aid in my bladder, I've been getting fatter. Laying on the ground, maybe call me a flounder. Hot, hot, my fingers got the grease. Mix it with some cheese, there's some dust on all my knees. Got the back up on the streets. I got to eat. I'm feeling the heat. Yeah. Hot dog, hot burrito, hot Cheeto. Hot pocket still steaming like Doritos. Smash Bros, yeah, I got an amiibo. And Flamin Hot Summer is a splash like a free throw.
That rap was pretty awesome. I didn't know you were that talented. I mean, I believed you were, but I'm like mind blown right now. That was so good. Well, you know what, guys? That was so much fun, and I do have one unfortunate announcement. But before you go anywhere, there's an exciting one to follow it up. Tonight, sadly, is our last night of YouTube live streams. But Josiah, tell them why they shouldn't start crying.
Well, don't feel sad because we are getting rid of the live stream so that we can be able to meet together in person. That's right. Tribes is having our Flamin Hot Summer Meetups. So definitely come out, check those out. We're going to be giving you more information in the weeks to come. But go ahead in the comment box. Let us know how excited you are to be meeting other people in person again.
Yeah, I am so excited to finally be back together in person. Of course, we're going to continue to be socially distancing as we want to keep you guys and ourselves safe. But this is also your summer, and we want you guys to have a great time. So we have some great things planned, and it's going to be so much fun. I cannot wait.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Well, with that said, let's go ahead and welcome up our speaker for the night, Joe Montgomery.
Jesus was a rebel, renegade, outlaw, sanctified, troublemaker, but he never sinned, no. And he lived his life by a different set of rules. The culture ain't approved, so you know they had to bruise him. That's the way they do, man, they swear they so gangsta. Everyone the same, everybody do the same stuff. Tattoos, piercings, smoking up and drinking, money and sex, plus them extravagant weekends. Man, if that's the high life, I puff past that. You live evaporated like missing the gas cap. I guess I'm past that. I'm in rebellion. I'd rather have $1 in my pocket than $1 million. I'm scared to worship money or wants over Elio. I remain a rebel while the rest of them just carry on. This is what I live for. This the hell I'm buried on. If Jesus is the truth, that means one of us is very wrong. Think about it. I'm in rebellion. I know in our day, rebel means sinner.
When I was about 18 years old, me and my friends, we went to IHOP. And at this IHOP, we were all sitting down at the table, and we were all getting ready to eat. And you know how the waitress, sometimes they bring a pitcher of water so that they don't have to refill your cup. So when she brought this pitcher of water, my friends were like, hey, Joel, you should make it look like you're drinking this whole pitcher of water so that every time she comes back, she has to refill it. Now, this sounds horribly mean to the waitress, I understand that, but I am standing here and I'm like, okay, well, you know what, I'm gonna do it. So I start pouring my water, I start drinking it, and then I drink another water, and then I drink another cup of water, and it's going on, and she comes back and she's like, oh, okay, so you guys need some more water? And I was like, yeah, let's get some more water. She brings back another pitcher of water, and then I drink that whole thing, and my friends were continuing to egg me on, continuing to pressure me to do this, and I was just falling into this peer pressure, even though I knew that I needed to pee really, really bad. So eventually they were like, okay, you got her. She was like, you could tell that she was giving us really weird looks by the end of it. And I walk into the bathroom, and I mean, you guys can guess what happened next. I peed a lot that day. I think I peed at least probably 25 times that day. It was probably not healthy for me, and it was probably not a good thing. But here's the deal. Sometimes we get peer pressured to do things. Sometimes we're with our peers and they tell us, hey, you should do this. You should, one time I ate barbecue sauce straight out of a McDonald's packet because I was peer pressured to do it. I do a lot of things sometimes because of that, not gonna lie. But I'm trying to get better at it, and I wanna talk to you about an idea that is not peer pressure. Because if you remember last week, we talked about how Jesus is a rebel. Jesus is actually countercultural. See, the way Jesus lived was not of this world. So Pastor Peter did a great job setting this series up, but I want to talk to you about another phrase that I hear so often that can really hurt your faith, that can really hurt you, and this is the phrase: everyone else is doing it. Here's a couple of examples. Everyone else is watching this show on Netflix. I should watch it. It's okay because everyone else is doing it. Everyone else is listening to this popular song. It's okay because everyone else is doing it. Everyone else is saying these words. It's okay because everyone else is doing it. I mean, the psychological fact is that a lot of times when everyone else is doing something, you want to do it. But that's why Jesus is so different, because he didn't do what the world did. And I want to tell you that God created you to stand out. God didn't create you to fit in. God didn't create you to make the way that you live of this world. In fact, the Bible says, be in the world, but not of it. Yes, you're in this earth, you are in this world, that's where you are living, but don't be of the world. Because Jesus wasn't, and we're supposed to live like Jesus. So there is this thing that I want to talk to you about today that I think is so important. In fact, it's the most important thing in our faith, and that idea is love. And I think our world needs love more than anything right now, more than anything. And as I'm talking about this idea of being a rebel, I want you to just stop and think for a minute. Does the way the world love match up with the way that God tells you to love? Because it doesn't. It doesn't. In fact, God's love and the world's love are two completely different things. Because a lot of times, the way that the world loves, the way that the world views love is something that they can get out of it. Is having sex with that girl to prove that you love her. It's the exact opposite. That's not the way that we are supposed to love. In fact, let me tell you how we're supposed to love. In 1 Corinthians 13:4, it says this. So many of you have probably heard this verse before, but I want you to really listen today. Love is patient. Love is kind. It is not jealous. Love does not brag, and it is not arrogant. It does not act unbecomingly. It does not seek its own. It's not provoked. Does not take into account a wrong suffered. Does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth. Bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. And then in verse 8, the first part of it says that love never fails. It never fails. But it is not talking about that silly love that you see on Netflix rom-coms. I love Netflix rom-coms, but to all the boys I've ever loved before and all of those shows that you've probably watched, that's not real love. See, love is so much more than romance. Love is directly from God. God is love. But the way that he tells you to love is rebellious to how the world loves, because it's completely different. Because guess what? This verse literally says that love rejoices with the truth. How many of your friends like hearing the truth? Not very many people like hearing the truth. In fact, a lot of times, if you tell the truth to someone, they oftentimes say, well, you're being hateful, you're being mean. But that's not what the Bible describes. The Bible says that love rejoices in truth. So we've got to tell the truth. See, this love is completely different. And I want to ask you today this question. Do you truly value love? Just want to let that sit for a second. A lot of you right now would say, yes, I value love. I value love. Do you really value true love that God asks you to bring to this earth? Again, a lot of you guys would say, yes, I value that. But then I want you to take a look at something. I want you to take a look at your actions. Because there's something about actions. Guess what? Your actions always directly point to what you value the most. Always. So if you want to ask yourself, do I truly value real love? You can say that you value something. You can say, I value family, but then you never spend time with your family. You can say, I value friendships, but then you're always mean to your friends. You always gossip behind their back. You can say, I value the truth, but then you go out and you lie. See, you can say you value anything, but until you put action behind what you value, you realize that that's not your true value. So do you truly value real love? Do you? Now, the way I want to help you understand this is by talking about a pretty famous character in the Bible. He's kind of important. His name is Jesus. I want to talk to you about Jesus today because here's the thing. Jesus is the greatest example of love. The way that he lived his life as a human, he was fully God and fully man, but the way that he lived his life as a man was the most loving example that we can have. So I want to talk to you about 4 actions that Jesus did that proved that he loved and that love was the greatest value to him. And I want to start with this verse, John 3:16. Some of you guys have heard John 3:16. You see it at football games. You see it all over the place. But John 3:16 says, for God so what? Loved the world that he gave his only son. So Jesus coming down to this earth was on account of real love. So of course it was his number one value because he loved us so much that he stepped down. And you guys know most of the story, but I want to talk to you about 4 occasions. This first one is that Jesus healed the sick in love. Now, I think this is such an important verse right now because obviously, we see that coronavirus is all around us. Like, everyone's isolated. Most people are quarantined. Things are opening back up a little bit more, and I hope they continue to. I pray every day that coronavirus is eradicated, that God would take it away, and my heart goes out. It breaks for the people who have lost their life because of it. But I want to talk to you about a man back in the Bible days, a story about a man that had leprosy. Now, if you don't know about leprosy, leprosy was regarded as one of the worst diseases that you could possibly have. And in fact, quarantine, this whole idea of quarantine, not a new thing. We've been quarantined throughout history at different times. But anybody who had leprosy, guess what happened to them? They were isolated. They were isolated. And this story is so amazing because Jesus is standing and this man with leprosy comes up to Jesus and he asks him to heal him. Now, here's the amazing part about it. Jesus reaches out and he touches him and he says, be healed. Now, the amazing part about that story is that Jesus reached out and he touched him. Now, I'm not talking about coronavirus necessarily. No, I believe that you should respect the government's rules. You should stay in quarantine. You should keep other people safe by using wisdom and doing that. But I'm talking about people all around you who are emotionally sick, physically sick, socially sick, who feel isolated. Guess what? You might have entered isolation for the first time in your life this year, but there are so many people around you who have felt isolated their entire life. Let that sink in for a second. And when Jesus reached out and touched this man, obviously the power of God healed him, but I want to talk about another part of this that's so important to understand. When Jesus reached out and touched this man, it wasn't just his sickness that was healed. It wasn't just the physical side of things that was healed. No, he healed every part of the man because he had a sin issue in his heart. And God healed it because he forgave him. In love. It was the love that spread in that moment to that man that healed every part of him. And Jesus loved him enough to touch him. Did you know that the way that disease spreaded was through touch? Jesus wasn't afraid. No, he reached out and he touched him because he knew in that moment that what was actually going to spread was not the disease. It was the love of God, which is so much more powerful, so much more great, and so much better than anything else in this world. Number 2, Jesus served others in love. Another action that Jesus did is that he served others in love. It's such a beautiful thing. See, the God of this universe, the God that created everything, the God that's powerful enough to do anything in the snap of a finger, he spoke us into existence with words, came down to this earth to serve. You know what that tells me? That tells me that none of us are better than anyone else. None of us. If the God of this universe showed us that one way to love is to serve, then we should be serving every single day. Every single day. And there's so many ways for you to serve. You can serve at your church. You can serve in your community. You can go on mission trips. God will use your passions to help you serve, but you've got to serve because that's an action of love. That's something that Jesus did. He was the Son of God. He was fully God, fully man, and he washed somebody's feet. Isn't that a beautiful picture of what serving should look like? He lowered himself to our level, and he served us, even though he knew that he was going to be going to a cross someday. Now, the third thing I want to talk to you about is Jesus forgave others in love. There's a story in the Bible about a woman who had committed adultery. And something you need to know about adultery in that time was that the law was that if you committed adultery, then you were stoned. There was no help. There was no forgiveness. There was no love. If you committed adultery, that's it. You sinned, you're done. But Jesus, again, was rebellious with his love. He was countercultural. I'm not talking about rebellious, sinful love. I'm talking about a love of God that is so much different than what the world's love is, because he stepped into the situation and he saw the woman about to be stoned, and he looked around at everybody who was hateful and about to throw this brick and these stones, and he said, let the first one who hasn't sinned throw the first stone. Everybody walked away. Why? Because everybody in that circle had sinned. Except for Jesus. He was perfect. But then he steps up to the girl and he looks at her in her brokenness, and he looks at her and he says, he forgives her. And then he says, go and sin no more. Turn away from your sin. But a lot of people like to talk about this, about judgment, and that is a really important sermon as well. That's a completely different talk. But Jesus forgave her. Why? Why would he forgive her? She had committed adultery. She had committed a crime. She had broken the law. Why did he forgive her? Because Jesus doesn't care about our past. He just wants us right where we're at. And he saw that woman was broken and she was struggling. So he stepped in and he was willing to forgive her no matter how much she had done. Are you willing to forgive? Even if someone hurts you. Even if someone's actually committed a crime. Are you willing to forgive? Are you willing to serve? Are you willing to embrace someone who feels isolated? Those are all actions of love. And this final action is Jesus ultimately gave his life for us. He took our place. There's already so much beauty in this. There's already so much beauty in this. Jesus took our place. Jesus was willing to give his life. And that's what I wanted to get to. The love of God is not about what I can get. It's not about how you can make someone feel better. God doesn't call us to happiness. He calls us to holiness. And you have to understand that a part of being holy is loving the way God loved. And a part of being a Christian and a follower of Christ is loving like God loved. So I have to ask you the question, if Jesus was willing to lay his life down for someone who didn't even deserve it, in us, every single one of us. If Jesus was willing to lay his life down for people, then shouldn't we be? Are you willing to lay your life down for someone? Are you willing to lay your life down for someone? That question should make you think. Because if you really love like God loved, you'd be willing to take someone's place, no matter who they are, no matter what they've done. I want to close with this. I so often pray every day that, God, would you break my heart for what breaks yours? And I was thinking about all of the situations that we've gone through recently with division and hateful people and racism. And I want you to know that Black Lives Matter. We are for the Black community as a church. I am for the Black community as an individual. And we've got to do a better job. Systemic racism, it's a real thing, and we have to make laws. We have to do things that are going to make better situations, better education. We need those things. But most of all, we need love. A love that only comes from Jesus. And we have to understand, like Pastor Peter said last week, that we are all one race. We are all human beings, all made in the image of God. God made you in the image of himself, and every single person should be respected as a person who is the image of God. No matter their race, no matter their color, no matter what they do, no matter what they've done, every single person is created in the image of God, and they are important and they have a purpose. So it breaks my heart that a man had his life stripped from him. But I want to ask you the question. If you had the chance, would you have taken George Floyd's place? If you had the chance, would you have laid down your life so that he could live? It's a crazy question. And obviously we know it's over. We don't have the chance to do that. But I'm asking you the question to help you understand from a physical example of what Jesus did for you. Because as we were being weighed down by sin, as we were being weighed down by death, Jesus went to the cross, he took our place, and then he went to hell, and he took the keys, and he broke death, and he broke sin, just so that we could live, and just so that we could have a relationship with him. So if you truly love, if you truly value love, would you be willing to lay your life down for someone? Would you be willing to take someone's place? Would you be willing to sacrifice something for someone else? Because if you truly value love, if you truly want to love like Jesus did, then you would be willing to sacrifice. Maybe you need to love your family more. Maybe you need to sacrifice a little bit of video game time. Sure, we all need to do that. But love involves sacrifice. That's the difference. The world's love has nothing to do with sacrifice. It's all about what you can get. It's all about just be yourself. No, don't be yourself. Be like Christ. Be like Christ. See, there's so much truth in knowing that Jesus loved, he sacrificed constantly, and then he ended up sacrificing his own life. I'm not saying that you're going to have to die for someone. That's probably not going to happen. It will not happen, most likely. But you got to sacrifice sometimes to love like Jesus did. And you might not like it, but it's for love, and it's important. So the 4 actions I want to see in your life is 1, be willing to heal, be willing to embrace the people who feel isolated. Be willing to touch someone in love, to reach out your hand to someone. Be willing to heal like Jesus did. 2, serve. Serve others in love. Find a place to serve. You can serve, like I said before, you can serve at your church. You can serve all kinds of places. You can serve your family every single day. 3, be willing to forgive others in love. No matter what they've done to you, no matter how much they've hurt you, forgive, forgive, forgive. Just like Jesus did for you. And 4, be willing to sacrifice. Be willing to sacrifice, because that's the greatest thing you can do in love. Let's pray together. Jesus, thank you so much for today. Thank you that you have just placed me in a position to be able to speak to these students. And God, I just pray that for myself personally, that you would help me to love more every single day. Every single day. No matter who the person is, no matter what they've done, if they are another human being, I'm gonna love them. God, help me to love them. And Lord, help me to remember what you did for me, what you did for all of us. I pray that this is the prayer for everybody watching, that God, that you would reveal your love to us so that it would just radiate through us. God, I thank you that you saved us on the cross and how you rose again. You saved us. You defeated death. You defeated sin, just so that we could live a life of freedom with you, Jesus, and that we could have eternity with you. So, Lord, I thank you so much for who you are, for what you've done. And, Lord, I pray that we would love more every single day. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Wow, Joel, that was such an amazing message. I really enjoyed the part where you talked about how our love is displayed through our actions. Well, before we close up, a couple of announcements for you guys. First one is that our YouTube live streams are ending today. But that means we get to gather back together in person through our Flamin Hot Summer Meetups.
Excited.
It's so exciting.
It's very exciting.
Yes, I missed human interaction, especially with you guys. So make sure you come out. Our first one is going to be on July 8th. So stay tuned on our Instagram for more details about our location and events.
Yeah, I'm so excited. You guys are gonna be able to go onto our Instagram and you'll see the location and events the week beforehand, so you'll be well prepared. So make sure you come ready to go, because they are gonna be pretty awesome, right?
Oh, yeah.
But you know what, guys? That is not the only time this summer we want to be able to see you. We also have our Summer Monday nights going on, where we get a chance to dive deeper in the Word. So if you haven't signed up yet, go ahead and sign up. There's a separate girls group and a separate guys group. We meet on Monday nights, 7 to 8:30, and our first time was this Monday, and it was pretty awesome, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was fantastic.
So you guys don't want to miss it. So if you haven't signed up, go ahead and do that. We hope to see you either on Monday or on Wednesday, and we can't wait.
Yeah. So, with that said,
I guess that's it. Bye, YouTube live streams. We'll see you guys in person.